So the time has finally arrived. We are going to start covering the lore for Assassin's Creed 3, and what better way to start it than go over the 19 characters that are found in the multiplayer game mode. Assassin's Creed 3's multiplayer characters are nowhere near as detailed as the ones found in Brotherhood and Revelations. Let me know in the comments who was your main go-to character to play as. My go-to was probably the Nightstalker or Silent Shadow if they weren't already taken. Anyway, let's get started. Kuruk was a Pawnee warrior who was cast out of his homeland after his older brother rose to become the tribe's chieftain. He travelled east and eventually offered his skills as a fighter to either the Assassins or the Templars. Exactly which side he joined is unclear. Centuries later, the hacker collective Erudito reported that this detail had been lost to history. Regardless of his allegiance, Erudito noted that Kuruk was never more than a grunt and didn't have any major impact on the wider Assassin-Templar conflict. Kuruk was known for his immense strength and fiery temper, traits that made him a dangerous opponent. While he mainly worked as an enforcer, he was also a highly skilled weaponsmith and took pride in crafting arms in his spare time. John O'Brien was an Irish labourer who immigrated to America in search of a fresh start, having grown tired of the Templars' constant interference back home. Naturally quiet and preferring solitude, John genuinely wanted nothing more than to be left alone. However, years of persecution at the hands of the Templars gradually pushed him towards violence. While it's unclear whether John was related to the assassin Liam O'Brien, the two did share Irish roots, so it could be possible. Matthew Davenport was a British Army officer and Templar who fought during the American Revolutionary War. Cold and calculating by nature, he carried out his duties with ruthless efficiency and was fiercely loyal to the soldiers under his command. He was just as capable on the battlefield as he was at planning and strategy. Aware that his daughter, Eleanor Mallow, was also fighting against the Assassins, Matthew undertook highly sensitive Templar missions on her behalf. Although he shared the Davenport surname with Achilles and Jonathan, no confirmed connection between them has ever been established. The Coyote Man was a notorious Templar, most likely of Lakota origin, widely considered the deadliest assassin hunter operating along the eastern coast of North America during the 18th century. His reputation was cemented when he reportedly killed an assassin mentor with his bare hands, an act that became legendary among both allies and enemies. In 2012, Abstergo Entertainment used his genetic memories as the basis for an Animus avatar. The character was named after his real-life alias, Coyote Man. As part of Abstergo's broader propaganda efforts, his Templar ties were deliberately erased from his public profile. Instead, he was portrayed as a man devoted to protecting his village rather than serving the Templars. His most infamous act was also rewritten, with the murder of an assassin mentor replaced by the far more palatable story of him killing a bear. Abstergo further blurred his true identity by presenting him simply as a master hunter, celebrated as the finest on the American East Coast. In reality, the Coyote Man was a true psychopath who revelled in bloodshed and avoided social interaction entirely. He was feared by his enemies and respected by his fellow Templars. In combat, he fought in a wild, frenzied manner, wielding twin shanks and overwhelming his targets with relentless, animalistic attacks. He stalked his prey with disturbing enthusiasm, often wearing war paint and bone masks that only increased his terrifying presence. These were more than intimidation tactics, they reflected his lethal skill as both a hunter and a warrior. His fighting style matched his feral nature, chaotic, unpredictable, and driven by extreme agility. He would dart in and out of his enemy's vision, striking before vanishing again. The hacking collective Erudito once joked that he had won the Deadliest Templar Guerrilla Award 5 times in a row. His ability was undeniable, so much so that Abstergo later hailed him as the greatest assassin hunter of his era on the American East Coast, despite the fact that it was Shay Cormac who ultimately wiped out the colonial assassins. As for the assassin mentor he supposedly killed with his bare hands, the details are unclear. The Coyote Man operated primarily along the eastern seaboard, which indicates that the victim may have belonged to the colonial brotherhood. However, this raises questions, as the only known colonial mentors of the 18th century were Achilles Davenport, who died of old age, and Connor Kenway. This means the mentor he killed could not have been part of the colonial brotherhood, leaving the victim's identity unresolved. Bernardo de Galvez y Madrid was a Spanish military commander and colonial administrator. He served first as the governor of Spanish Louisiana and later rose to become the viceroy of New Spain. During the American Revolutionary War, de Galvez supported the Continental Army and dealt several significant blows to the British forces, making him a high-profile target for the Templar Order. Later in life, he married Marie Félicité, the second daughter of Gilbert Antoine, who were both found in Assassin's Creed Liberation. Gerhard von Stanton was a Hessian soldier who fought in the British Army during the American Revolutionary War and was a loyal member of the Templar Order. He was infamous for his love of combat and, with little in the way of personality, functioned as a relentless killing machine who carried out orders without hesitation or fear of defeat. The hacking collective Erudito later speculated that Von Stanton may have been the infamous Headless Horseman, an eerie figure encountered by Shay Cormac in Sleepy Hollow and later by Conor Kenway in The Frontier. However, this theory raises some issues. Since Gerhard served as a Templar under the British during the American Revolution, he could not have crossed paths with Shay Cormac during the 7 Years' War, when Shay was still active, unless such an encounter took place before Shay joined the Templars in 1756. Duncan McGill was a Scottish Highlander who was forced into exile and eventually made his way to the American colonies, with little more than the clothes he wore and a sword at his side. Though he had little interest in the broader conflict of the American Revolutionary War and held no great love for the British, McGill still chose to fight, driven by his deep loyalty to the assassin cause and his determination to thwart Templar ambitions in the New World. His actions soon gave rise to local folklore, earning him the fearsome nickname Red Rage Duncan. William de Saint Prix was an assassin of the French Brotherhood, born into an aristocratic family. At just 17 years old, he was dispatched to aid the Colonial Brotherhood during the American Revolutionary War, a mission that would cement his reputation as one of the Brotherhood's most respected figures. Raised in a noble French household, William enjoyed a life filled with opportunity. From an early age, he received a broad education in the liberal arts and sciences, disciplines readily available to someone of his status. Alongside this, he trained with the Parthian Brotherhood, mastering combat, stealth, assassination, and free-running as he grew into adulthood. On his 17th birthday, the Partisan Brotherhood sent William to the fledgling United States to support the Colonial Brotherhood's efforts. Under the leadership of Achilles Davenport and Conor Kenway, the colonial assassins had aligned themselves with the Patriot cause, and William did everything he could to aid the revolution. Though many revolutionaries distrusted him because of his aristocratic background, his intelligence, resolve, and bravery earned him the respect of the fellow assassins as he fought against the Templars. William's contributions left a lasting mark on the Assassin Brotherhood, and he was remembered as an especially heroic figure in their history. His legacy was so well regarded that even the hacking collective Erudito openly expressed admiration for him. Alcumse was a Shawnee woman renowned among her people as a fearless and passionate warrior. As a child, she stood apart for her preference for solitude, a trait that earned her the name Alcumse, meaning independent. As she grew older, her quiet, reserved nature hardened into a fierce and aggressive temperament. An uncompromising idealist, she remained steadfast in her beliefs, even when doing so put her life at risk. This resolve led her to oppose the Templars as they expanded their influence into the European colonies surrounding her homeland. Alcumse was a maverick among her peers, introverted yet never timid. In adulthood, her true nature emerged fully as a determined idealist. Where others might retreat from danger, she pressed on with unrestrained courage, driven by a willingness to die for what she believed in. To the Templars, this made her a dangerous radical. To her supporters, she was a heroic defender of justice, truth, and the preservation of her people and their culture. Gillian McCarthy was a Templar seductress who used charm and manipulation to climb into the highest levels of society, amassing power and wealth even at the cost of her own family. She grew up in the North American colonies alongside her younger brother, Fillion McCarthy. Born to colonial settlers in the New World, Gillian murdered her parents at a young age, an act that left both her and Fillion homeless and destitute. Forced onto the streets, the siblings adapted quickly, using wit and cunning to survive. Where Fillion turned to theft, Gillian instead learned to exploit seduction, aligning herself with men of influence and status to secure protection and advantage. Several of the figures that she ensnared were Templars, and through them she was eventually offered a place within the order, at the cost of betraying her brother. Seeing the offer as a path to power and social ascension, Gillian accepted, whether out of genuine belief in the Templar cause or sheer ambition. In doing so, she permanently severed ties with Fillion. From that point on, their paths diverged completely. Gillian rose through the ranks of the Templars, while Fillion would eventually find his place among the assassins. Victor Walcott was a doctor of British descent and was notorious for his disturbing experiments. Obsessed with the pursuit of knowledge and power, especially in biology, medicine, and the occult, he developed a reputation for pushing ethical boundaries. Rumours claimed that his elixirs were capable of pulling wounded Templars back from the brink of death. Beyond this, Walcott was known to refine his dissection skills on fresh bodies, though exactly how he acquired them was never made clear. His methods, much like his work, remained shrouded in mystery and unease. Joe was widely believed to be a mentally unstable mercenary who murdered civilians on the streets of New York during the American Revolution. In reality, he was an exceptional member of the Assassin Brotherhood, driven by a strict sense of justice and targeting those who preyed on and abused women. Joe operated exclusively at night, a habit that helped fuel his terrifying reputation among the public. His growing infamy meant that his name was spoken only in whispers, and his true identity was never known. The nickname Joe itself reportedly came from one of his Templar victims, who screamed the name moments before being killed. Emily Burke, better known as Calamity Millie, was a frontier pioneer during the American Revolutionary War. The only daughter in a family of 10, she grew up tough, developing a rough demeanour and learning the value of hard work and sacrifice from a young age. As she grew older, Emily struggled with the restrictions placed on her because of her gender. That struggle ended suddenly when her father and brother were killed by members of the Templar Order. Abandoning any attempt to conform, she set out to uncover the truth and take revenge, hunting down and killing the Templars she believed responsible. Though she never formally joined the Assassin Brotherhood, she became a trusted ally of the Order throughout the 18th century. Father Federico Perez was a preacher of Spanish descent and devoted member of the Templar Order. He was driven by an obsessive need to purge the land of assassins, whom he condemned as sinners and heretics. His absolute, unquestioning faith in the Templar cause made him both ruthless and efficient. Perez dispensed death as readily as he offered forgiveness, never hesitating when it came to condemning and executing those he believed had strayed from his vision of righteousness. This blind devotion was highly valued by the Templars, who admired and fully exploited the control they held over him. Eleanor Mallow was the daughter of Commander Matthew Davenport, a British military officer, and she enlisted in the British Army during the American Revolutionary War. Often dismissed as a spoiled brat, Eleanor was raised under the strict militaristic discipline imposed by her Templar father. Her loyalty to the Templar Order was absolute, and she carried out covert missions against the assassins while attempting to conceal her true identity, though Matthew was secretly aware of her activities. Young, strong, and highly malleable, she embodied the personality the Templars valued most. Eleanor's surname differed from her father's, suggesting it was either an alias used to protect her identity or a name inherited from her mother. Fillion McCarthy was a thief who, like his older sister Gillian, learned to survive on the streets from a young age. Where Gillian turned to manipulation and seduction, Fillion relied on theft to get by. As Gillian climbed the social ladder and ultimately allied herself with the Templars, Fillion cut ties with her entirely. In time, he crossed paths with the Assassin Brotherhood and found a place among them. Resourceful and capable of looking after himself, Fillion's loyalties were simple, securing his next meal and helping the Brotherhood whenever he could. Caleb Garrett was a skilled gunslinger who joined both the American Revolutionary War and the Assassin Brotherhood after witnessing a group of Templars burn his friends alive. That experience drove him to take up arms and commit himself fully to the fight. Drawing on his military-level expertise with rifles and other small arms, Caleb patrolled woodland routes and defended his allies with lethal efficiency. Atasata, also known as Chogun or Kryn, was of Kanyan Kahaka descent and was raised away from his people by his assassin father. From a young age, he was trained in the art of killing, using those skills primarily as a means of survival. He lived a quiet, hidden life until his father was slain by a Templar raiding party. After that, he wandered through cities under Templar control, constantly searching for an opportunity to take revenge. Nikilik was a chieftain of an Inuit tribe who journeyed countless miles south after learning of his southern kin's struggles. Determined to aid the revolutionaries and protect his people, he brought his strength to the fight. Despite his size, he was remarkably fast and agile, making him a highly valuable ally.